There are wounds that don't bleed. They quietly rot your heart from the inside. For 2 years, I lived with a poison disguised as kindness, offered to me every single day by the man I trusted for half a century. I opened my door to a girl he called family, fed her, cared for her, even held her child as if she were my own blood. I thought I was doing a good deed. I thought God was testing my generosity. I didn't know the test was not for my kindness. It was for my blindness. Before everything shattered, my life in Phoenix was simple, steady. I woke before dawn, kneaded my pie dough while the world still slept, and packed the flavors my mother taught me with love. Robert would return from his construction work, tired but steady, and we'd share quiet evenings that felt like routine, but at the time felt like peace. We were never rich, but we were never empty either. I had no warning that the life I built so carefully was about to crack open like a fragile shell. I didn't know that the woman I welcomed into my home would become the match that burned down 50 years of trust. But the storm truly began the day Robert came home early with a truth he wasn't ready to tell and I wasn't ready to hear. The day everything shifted didn't arrive with thunder. It arrived quietly, like a thief wearing soft shoes. I came home early, tired from selling pies, and found Robert sitting at the kitchen table, not with the usual calm of a long day, but with the heaviness of a man preparing to break something delicate. "Elena, sit down," he said, without even meeting my eyes. My heart fluttered in fear. I thought his mother was ill, or maybe he lost his job. Never, not once, did my mind wander toward betrayal. He spoke of a cousin named Sophia, a girl I had never heard of in all our years together. According to him, she was sick, homeless, heartbroken, and needed a place to stay. And because I have always led with compassion, I said yes without hesitation. Yes to opening my home. Yes to extending my heart. Yes to welcoming a stranger as family. Unaware she was already much more than that. As we cleaned the spare room, Robert even brought flowers, a gesture so out of character it should have warned me. But love makes you blind where you should be watchful, and generous where you should be cautious. And when Sophia finally stepped into my home, pale and fragile, I thought I was sheltering someone broken. I didn't know she carried the secret that would soon break me instead. When Sophia finally walked through my doorway, she looked like a delicate shadow of a woman, thin, pale, trembling slightly as she clutched her small suitcase. Her voice was soft, almost fragile, as she thanked me for letting her stay. In that moment, every maternal instinct inside me awakened. I felt sorry for her. I wanted to protect her, to give her warmth, to help her heal. I didn't know that pity would become the key that unlocked my destruction. That first night, I cooked her favorite meal, roast chicken, and watched her pick at the food with the appetite of someone who had lived more grief than years. Robert hovered around her, asking if she needed anything, speaking to her with a softness I had never seen him use, not even with me during our early years. But I brushed it aside. I convinced myself he was simply being a good host. Days turned into weeks, and the house slowly reshaped around her presence. She slept late, moved quietly, avoided conversation. Yet somehow, Robert was always attuned to her needs before she voiced them. He brought her magazines, chocolates, small gifts. I told myself it was kindness. I told myself families help one another. But kindness isn't blind, unless you force it to be. And soon, tiny cracks began to appear. Cracks that hinted Sophia wasn't who she claimed to be. And Robert wasn't the man I thought I knew. At first, the changes were small, so small they could have been brushed away like dust. But tiny lies, when repeated daily, begin to smell. And soon, the scent of something wrong filled my home. Robert, a man who never cared for appearances, suddenly began grooming himself like a younger version of who he used to be. New shirts, new cologne, frequent haircuts. He said it was because we had a guest now, but my heart whispered otherwise. Sophia, who barely spoke to me, somehow bloomed whenever Robert entered the room. Her shy silence melted into soft smiles, gentle laughs, lowered eyelashes. When I walked in, those smiles snapped back into shadows. I felt like a stranger in my own house, a ghost drifting between two people sharing a secret I wasn't meant to see. Then came the gifts. He brought her fancy shampoo, magazines, chocolates, things he had never bought for me in 50 years. When I questioned the unnecessary expenses, he brushed me off, said she was depressed, needed cheering up. But even then, I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself family deserved kindness. Until one afternoon, when their laughter suddenly died the moment I stepped through the door. Like guilt had gripped their throats, and that was the moment I felt it for the first time. The cold truth pressing against the walls of my heart. Something was being hidden from me. From that day onward, my eyes began to open, slowly, painfully, like someone waking up from a long, naive dream. The signs that once seemed harmless now appeared like clues deliberately placed in front of me. Clues I had been too trusting to see. Sophia's illness no longer looked like illness. Her cheeks gained color. Her hair looked healthier. Her appetite grew. She no longer resembled a woman recovering. She looked like someone hiding. Her room began to fill with new clothing I had never seen arrive. When I asked where it came from, she murmured something about friends sending packages, though no package ever touched my doorstep. Then there were the moments, those uncomfortable moments, when I walked into a room and their conversation would collapse into silence. Not ordinary silence, a guilty silence. A silence that buzzed with words hurriedly swallowed. One day, I came home earlier than usual and found them sitting too close on the couch, talking too softly, laughing too sweetly. And when I entered, they froze like two people caught touching fire. Still, I pushed away my suspicions. For 50 years, Robert had been my partner. Surely I was imagining things. Surely no woman would betray someone who cared for her like a daughter. But my heart was no fool. It whispered the truth before my mind was ready to accept it. And then came the moment that changed everything. The moment I realized Sophia's sickness wasn't sickness at all, but something growing inside her. The next morning, my home felt different, lighter, almost relieved. Their belongings were gone. Their whispers were gone. Even the walls seemed to exhale after holding 2 years of secrets. I stood in the kitchen, the same place I had cried, cooked, prayed, and broken 1,000 times. And for the first time, I felt something new. Freedom. I prepared my pies like always, but my hands didn't shake. I opened the curtains, and the sunlight felt like a gentle apology for all the darkness I had endured. I wasn't the same woman anymore. Far from it. I had walked through betrayal, carried humiliation, faced the cruel truth, and survived it. I didn't crumble. I didn't beg. I stood tall in the ruins and rebuilt myself. I visited Robert's mother, told her the truth, and she held my hands with tears in her eyes. Not for her son, but for me. At church, Father Michael prayed with me, reminding me that forgiveness isn't for the guilty, it's for the wounded heart finally choosing peace. And slow, piece by piece, I took back my life. Today, I am not Elena the wife, Elena the caretaker, or Elena the woman who was deceived. I am Elena, the woman who found her strength when the world tried to break her. The woman who rose from ashes she never deserved. The woman who finally learned to live for herself. And this time, no one will ever steal that from me again.